Nonstop News starts now.
Starting off this morning with a live look over Washington, D.C., where flags at the Capitol and the White House are at half-staff this morning to honor the victims of that shooting in Uvalde, Texas. An elementary school there, 19 children and 2 teachers were killed yesterday. Officials identified the gunman as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, who was a local resident. He was armed with a handgun and possibly a rifle. Investigators say he is among the dead and he acted alone. This morning, we have live coverage from Texas. NBC News' Wendy Wolfert joins us live from Uvalde, Texas right now. What's the latest there, Wendy?
Angie, good morning to you. It was a somber and stormy night here in South Texas. A sliver of good news. A 4th grade teacher who was shot while she was protecting her students managed to survive an intense surgery overnight. Unfortunately, because there are so many others who are hospitalized, the death toll could still rise here. As you mentioned, 19 children ages 7, 8, and 9 and 2 teachers lost their lives in this school that has about a crowd of 600 normal students. When they were wrapping up the school year, it was supposed to be a fancy Footloose themed day yesterday. They were wearing dress-up clothes to celebrate the end of the school year. Unfortunately, it ended in unspeakable tragedy. Governor Greg Abbott says the gunman abandoned his vehicle and then walked in the school just about midday yesterday, armed with a handgun and possibly a rifle. Opened fire while wearing body armor, is what we are told. But this is not the only crime scene. He also, we are told by investigators, shot his grandmother. She has survived, and possibly if investigators, Angie, can manage to talk to her, maybe she could possibly shed some light on this senseless tragedy. Again, as you mentioned, the 18-year-old suspect was a resident of this town. So basically he turned on many of his own, and people are trying to answer what is probably an unanswerable question of why. Why did this have to happen here?
That's terrible news, Wendy. And from what we've read, this is a small town. That's something that a lot of places in America, including here in mid-Missouri, can relate to. This is a small community. Is there any word from the community itself?
It has about you know what we are really gathering is that everybody knows everybody here, even though it's several thousand residents. Most people say if you weren't one of those 21 families who were notified yesterday, you know someone who was related to them or know one of these children. We have talked to several law enforcement officers. Two assistants in the mayor's office were notified yesterday. They lost children. And the law enforcement officers, those first responders who had to come to this scene, it is difficult to talk to them. They break down in tears of what they saw and what they had to confront. Such evil in such a small town. And everyone thinks it can't happen here. Unfortunately, as we are seeing, it can happen anywhere.
All right, thank you, Wendy. She's there at the scene this morning. Now, during an address at the White House, President Biden asked the questions that so many people are asking. He spoke to the nation after coming back from his trip to Asia.
These kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world. Why? They have mental health problems. They have domestic disputes in other countries. They have people who are lost.
President Biden once again called on Congress to pass sensible gun legislation. Also, he spoke with Texas's governor while Biden was aboard Air Force One. A White House official says the call was to offer any and all assistance to Texas. Governor Abbott spoke about the parents who are mourning right now.
They have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children.
A series of Texas gun right laws have come under scrutiny in the wake of the deadly school shooting. Last June, Governor Abbott signed 7 laws, one of which allows people to legally carry handguns without licenses. Here in Missouri, Governor Parson issued a statement after the school shooting. He tweeted, "First Lady Teresa and I are deeply saddened to hear of the tragic news out of Uvalde, Texas. We're praying for the victims and families and friends that they might find strength and peace in such a difficult time." Also last night, Columbia's Mayor Barbara Buffalo reacted to it on social media. She said, "Tonight I attended my daughter's graduation from elementary school. As tears formed in my eyes of the big step this is for my firstborn, many more fell from my eyes for the families of those who will not attend their child's graduation because of senseless gun violence." The shooting in Texas comes just 10 days after another shooting at a supermarket that happened in Buffalo, New York. It adds to the increased violence in the U.S. over the past several years. An FBI report found that in 2021, active shooter incidents surged nearly 97%. That's just compared to 2017. The trend has some lawmakers wanting to find a solution to stop the violence.
Just days after a shooter walked into a grocery store to gun down African American patrons, we have another Sandy Hook on our hands. What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings than days in the year.
According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been more than 200 mass shootings already this year in the U.S. Coming up in just a few minutes, the Today Show is going to continue the coverage from Texas. Savannah Guthrie will be anchoring from the site of the school shooting, and that's coming up right after KOMU 8 News today.